Liking your hair, by the way. It's all very silver crown and flowing.
I woke up this
Mhm.
morning and I forgot that I'd put it like in a wee wave, and then I sort of, when you walk past yourself in a mirror and you're like, oh fuck, but it was too late by that point.
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need, the need for speed.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Batman. I am the father.
Did you have a good time yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, it was lovely. I've never seen her live before, and I've been wanting to see her live for years, so it was great. We went through to Edinburgh, a wee bit of dinner, and then went to Usher Hall for the gig, which was great. Although I will say, and I'm just putting this out there, if you are well over 6 foot and you choose to stand in front of me at a concert, you are an arsehole. Like, it's really hard to. I was like looking through two people's shoulders, and I was like, if nobody moves for the next hour and a half, I actually have a view of the stage.
Is the Usher Hall not got a sloping floor on it? Yeah,
So
I remember that. Yeah.
So
yeah,
we
but
were
it's
a
not that
bit
much
at the
to say.
back, because also I don't like being in the crush anyway. So we were standing a wee bit at the back in the hope that would give me a chance to actually see. But I mean, it was really good. She's incredible live. Like, sounds exactly as she does when you're listening to her like on Spotify or whatever, and she's just got such great energy. Like, she's bouncing across the stage like all the time. So yeah, really, really good.
For the purposes of the recording, who did you go
Sure.
to see?
Aurora, who is a Norwegian singer whom people will know because her tracks have been used in things like Assassin's Creed, the video game. So she's got songs. I think she's had a couple of songs in some films as well. So yeah, she was absolutely incredible, and she's about 5 foot herself. So she was like this wee ball of energy going across the stage. So yeah, I think that's the first gig I've been to in a wee while, like a proper like standing up, like, you know, not like. So it was really, really good, and Edinburgh was lovely. The castle was all lit up at night and stuff like that, so that was nice to see.
Nice.
It was so nice, and just she's like, as I say, been wanting to see her live for years, and then she sort of announced this kind of whistle stop tour. So we were the last night, and what was lovely was she was like, it's so nice to be in Scotland. She was like, no offense if you're not from here. She was like, but in England, she was like, the crowds just aren't the same. And she was like, and I'm Norwegian. She was like, so I feel this sort of kindred. She was like, we've got a shared heritage and stuff like that. So of course that was met with rapturous applause. Whether it's everyone always says that, don't they? Though they always say the crowd that they're at is the best crowd they've had. So
yeah. I always remember there was a story about Fleetwood Mac, who they always come on and says, yeah, you're the best crowd we've had on the tour and all that. But what they had to do was the roadies had to actually put the name of the city on the back of the guitar so that they actually knew where they were. And we go, it's great to be here in Edinburgh, yay! Yeah, this is our favourite place.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, I know. I think it must be so. I mean, I feel like when you talk about like even like movie stars and stuff like that, like out on press junkets and things, they are traveling the world, but they're probably not seeing the world in the sense that they probably just move from hotel room to, or in this case, like sort of tour bus to, you know, various cities and stuff like that. They're probably not actually seeing much of the places that they're in.
Yeah, that's why when you see actors, like interviews with them on television or whatever, and you can tell when they're maybe halfway through a press tour because they're getting really bored with all the same questions and, you know, what was your reason for taking the film and all this, you know, for the 50th or 60th time, or it's the interview at the end of the day and they're just, you know, fed up. Just
they're over it.
More, yeah. Because I mean, these press junkets, I've heard people talking about them before, and they said that they start like at 8 o'clock in the morning, they can go until 8 o'clock at night. They just push through, and it's all 15-minute interviews, so it's always turnaround, you know, always keeping going, and there's very little sort of time in between, and it is just the same stuff all the time. So you're talking maybe 20 or 30 different interviews with different outlets in the one day, and there will be a fair amount of repetition in there, let's face it.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I don't know if you've read Alan Rickman's diaries.
No, I have not.
But he makes, I say being famous, because I think that's he obviously loves acting and directing. But he makes being famous sound really boring. Because it's things like that. It's the junket all day, or even like being on set. Like, you know, he talks about getting all sort of costumed up and then waiting for 8 hours because something doesn't quite work out. Or in some cases, like I think he talks about, is it Sense and Sensibility? Like the film he shot and the film he saw were two very different things. And he makes it sound quite like monotonous.
I mean, a lot of times making a film is a bit of a trust exercise because you're only involved in little snippets of it, and especially ones with any sort of effects on them. You get no idea. You're acting against a tennis ball, or nothing, just a mark on the wall or something. And in the case of that, they've got no idea how it's actually going to turn out. And like you say, like the film that they think they're making, it can be completely different in the edit and reshoots and all sorts of stuff. So yes, it is a bit of a gamble sometimes. That's why I think when some actors get a certain level of fame and a bit of influence, they make films themselves to get involved more in films, because then they know what is actually going to get put out there and it's not so much of a surprise. I mean, there was the famous one, was it The Thin Red Line? There was all these actors in it. It was like if you read the cast list in The Thin Red Line, there's like dozens of all these big name actors, and some of them thought they were actually the star of the film. And maybe about a third of them get cut out completely from the film. They just weren't, and they didn't know until they saw the film.
Oh no! I think there was who was it? There was somebody else recently. It was a male actor, quite a well-known one. I can't remember who it was, but they'd taken their mum along to a premiere of a really big film that they had shot like some scenes for, and they weren't in the final cut.
I know.
What a way to find out though, sitting there like eagerly anticipating this scene or whatever scenes that you know that you've shot, and then getting to the end credits and thinking, wait a minute, I didn't actually see myself.
Yeah, I know, because especially with actors that are sort of up and coming, they don't just take the role for the money. Obviously the money's important, but it's also to promote them for their next gig as well, or the gig everybody's going to see 2 years down the line. But and if they're not actually in the film at all, then if someone wants, you know, they can hardly use that as a calling card, saying, "Oh yeah, I was in the Batman film." Yeah. Whereabouts? Well, actually,
I know that's such a shame though. I do feel like, and the thing is, there's no, like, as far as I'm aware anyway, obviously I'm not like in the ins and outs of Hollywood contracts, but as far as I'm aware, there's no sort of like contractual obligation to say, or do you know those scenes that you shot, they're actually not included in the fight, you know, we promise we'll make them to DVD sort of thing. It's just like you're cut and that's it. There's no explanation, there's no sorry, we took 2 or 3 days of your time. It's just, that's it, you're not in it.
I know, it's bizarre, isn't it?
You think you'd get a heads up. Sat and watched that. I always get the wrong name. The Fall Guy, is that what I mean? The Ryan Gosling one.
Yes, yeah.
I watched that. I just felt like it just wasn't as, I don't know. I felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be, and it ended like 16 times. And the love story side to it just didn't really do anything for me, which is weird because they are two very beautiful, very charismatic people.
Yeah.
And it didn't really do anything for me. I was quite disappointed, especially, as I say, I do really like the two leads, but I just felt it was a bit predictable and a bit didn't know how to end. So,
it was totally predictable right up and including the cameos at the very end from the two stars of the TV show, which I must say Lee Majors looked far better. And I can't remember even the name of his female co-star in it, but she was just plastic. It was terrible, you know. It was really, and that kind of feeds into what we're going to talk about. But yes, it was a wee bit weird. We showed it on Saturday at the
I saw that.
The Kirky Cinema. Kirky Cinema. So that was the sort of the more less child-friendly film. But not I didn't want to say adult because that's a completely different genre.
Yeah, it's not like you were showing like Blue Velvet or something.
Again, kind of feeding into what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Yes, It was nice to see it projected. I have seen it. I saw it at a press screening a wee while ago as well,
Mhm.
and I thought it was all right. It was okay. It was one of these films. It is based around the stunts. And the kind of the story's kind of secondary to it. I did think Aaron Taylor Johnson was really good in it.
Yeah, do you know, I
As
do
the
really like him. I think
Yeah.
he's great. I think it's just, Chris and I were talking about this last night. The two films that I'm really looking forward to, unbelievably, are remakes. So it's Eggers' Nosferatu and Del Toro's Frankenstein.
Mhm.
And I just feel like cinema doesn't know what it wants to be at. Whereas and this is what's really weird. I don't know, did you go and see this film in a press screening or in with like general public?
Press screening.
Right, okay, so we obviously went in with general public and people were like laughing and shouting things out, and I felt like they didn't get the film. It was a very weird viewing experience because I obviously took a lot from it, but at the same time I was like, oh, I felt like this really deserved. I mean, we were on a tiny screen, it was about 15 people, and I was like, oh, that's such a shame because I really liked it. It's like proper film of the year material. This should be on a massive big screen, but I just feel like cinema doesn't know what to do with itself at the moment.
It's never going to push films like The Substance onto massive screens. Any film like that, just because they won't get the audience for it. People won't go and see it. They will go and see it if it's an Indiana Jones film or when a blockbuster, that'll fill up the bigger screens and earn them more money. But these films I don't think they tend to hang about very long either. They find their audience on home screenings.
Which is a shame. Grabbed this, I think the day after we came back, just because I thought this is going to go, so we're still going to see it while we can. And as I say, it was on the tiniest of tiny screens, but yeah, the people that we were watching it with, I don't think understood the film, because it's not a film. Well, for me anyway, it's not a film that you'd be like laughing out loud at as if it was a comedy or sort of.
No, there are certain absurdist elements to it, which you depending on your sort of your sickness level, how funny you find it. But yeah, but that happens with a lot of films that people, well, one, they don't know how to behave in cinemas, and two, if they don't get it, then they react by, rather than just sitting there and shutting up,
it was just a weird reaction. I mean, as I say, there was a couple of maybe like nervous chuckles you would get away with, or as I say, kind of you laughing more absurdist things, but it felt like they were watching a comedy and I was getting, the more I watched this film, the angrier I was getting, because I was just so on my high horse about how women are treated by society. And then when people started laughing around me as well, I was like, you don't get this. This is part of the problem. You're laughing at it, but it's not funny. It's really dangerous. So yes, I came out of it feeling slightly enraged as much as having enjoyed it. I just came out of it very, very angry.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people will come out of it feeling angry for other reasons, but yes, I can understand why you would, because it kind of spoils your own enjoyment. Or enjoyment or otherwise of the film.
Yes, I feel like this is, and we'll talk about it, it's not a film you necessarily enjoy, but just...
No. Yeah, I always get annoyed when my viewing experience is spoiled by somebody, even if it's just tucking into the giant popcorn, and munching away for like 20 minutes, or deciding that at the quietest part of a film, it's the perfect time to open up the bag of boiled sweets. Which are all individually wrapped, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake,
Do we purposely didn't take any food into this film because I knew it was a body horror, and I was like, I am not taking anything in case it does actually make you feel a bit squeamish. But when people were in with like full-on nachos and hot dogs and stuff like that, I was like, oh, wrong film. So yes, we purposely didn't take anything in, but people's reaction just so bizarre. It did make me want to go and watch it at home, but actually the whole point is I'm trying to go and see as much as I can in the cinema, because obviously you guys have had your wee local cinema shut down this week. That's support, bums on seats, as it were.
As of today, yes, that's it.
That's it today,
Cineworld Forge is no more, which I think they're going to have to get sort of experts in disposal in to actually get rid of the seats because
I know the way you guys always talk about
toxic.
the seats.
Yeah, because you know when sometimes when cinema closes, they sell off some of the stuff in the cinema. If it's gone bank, if a cinema like a wee cinema's gone bankrupt, whatever, they sell off the seats and things like that because other people like. Some people like to try and buy these things, but nobody is going to buy anything from the Cineworld, the Ford Cineworld. Oh my goodness!
All I remember about that cinema is that the seats are very low, as in very close to the ground, and that every carpet that you saw had a weird pattern on it, but was also somehow threadbare at the same time.
Yeah, it was not nice. Yeah, and there was obviously they had maybe 3 of the cinemas, 3 or 4 of the cinemas were quite reasonably large, but 5 and 6 were really small cinemas. And we used to have the press screenings in Cinema 5, and it's got maybe about 17 or 18 rows, but there's only maybe only about 10 seats in each row, and there's a real slope to it. It's really, really steep. So if you sit at the front, you're kind of like, Jesus, you're stretching your neck to see it, and it's just a horrible wee cinema to actually be in. It's not really nice at all. So when you see the listings, I wonder what's on, and then you see Cinema 5, nah, I'll wait till it comes out.
Presumably if you drop a Malteser at the back of Screen 5, somebody at the front's going to get it.
Yeah. It's worse when it's something like if they spill a drink, because if you've got a bag or something on the floor, then suddenly you're walking out with a bag that's covered in Coke or something,
Oh dear. I mean, it's sad that that's the state of things. I mean, it really, really is. But as I say, I feel like cinema doesn't know what it's doing with itself, and that's why you've got things like this where there's closures now, even in a big chain like Cineworld, which, in for example, in Glasgow City Centre, it saw off all the other cinemas that were there. You had the Odeon, the ABC, all that sort of thing. And it was the sort of survivor, as it were, tallest cinema in Europe or whatever it is. But they obviously are in trouble, so...
Oh, definitely, yeah, because obviously they closed down the VIP function for all of them, not just the Glasgow one, and it's just now regular, but it's everything to do with it. It's the fact that they charge, customer fees in order to book a film, which I always kind of sort of rail against, because they say, it's to help us improve our online presence and provide you with the best service for online tickets. Not, but you think, how much money do you need to do that you're charging everybody per ticket for that? It's just it really sort of adds to it, and they don't even call it a transaction fee. They call it something else to make it sound sort of nice and friendly, but it's not really. And they advertise, especially Cineworld, they advertise films. They say in Renfrew Street it's $6.99, big $6.99 thing, and they've got that on the side of how they've got they use the side of the building as a big sort of poster, and they have that up there, 4 or 5 stories high, $6.99, and there's a wee asterisk against it, and there's obviously some small print somewhere on the poster that says from $6.99, so you can pay. It's almost like dynamic pricing you're paying.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So, I mean, if you're just buying 1 or 2 tickets, you're thinking fair enough, but if you're trying to take a family to the cinema, and you're thinking, geez, and if it's not the regulation-sized family, if it's not the 2 adults and 2 kids, if it's 1 adult and 3 kids, you're gubbed. You have to buy individual tickets, so therefore it's much more expensive. So it's just, it's you can see why people are not all that interested. And if you look at the number of re-releases, now re-releases are all good. They have a place, because a lot of people won't have the chance to see some of these big films in cinemas and all that, but it's kind of getting out of hand. It's just, I mean, this year we've had all of the Spider-Man films re-released in cinemas. We've had we're in the middle of having all of the Star Wars films re-released.
Yeah, I saw that actually.
And there's other 30th anniversary, 25th anniversary, all this sort of stuff. There's loads and loads of these sort of anniversaries, and it's all these sort of that were bigger films, and they're all coming back, and that's taken up half the schedule. So like I say, when you've got things like The Substance and it's only shown for 2 weeks because it's in one of the smaller cinemas, it's not getting promoted as much as, you know, the fifth Star Wars, sixth Star Wars film or something like that. Just, yeah, you can, and people are saying, well, I've probably got that disc in the house. You know, especially if you're into something like the blockbuster films, the superhero films, things like Star Wars and all that, you've probably got them all in the house anyway. So, you know, you could spend 20 quid on rubbish food and watch it in the house with the kids, which, you know, rather than taking them to the cinema and all the expense of, you know, probably having to buy stuff at the cinema because in order to get into the screen, you have to walk past the massive big confection wonderland, you know. So, and I want this, and can I have a hot dog, Dad, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's all that, and like you mentioned earlier, parking in Glasgow is horrendous. The same as Edinburgh. So it's all that adds up. It's not just the price of the ticket; it's the whole experience.
Absolutely.
So
it's
people
quite shocking. And yeah, and this is the thing, it is quite shocking when you put it like that, because it's, as you say, it's not just a ticket, it's everything else on top of it, even right down to something like parking. And I think that, because funnily enough, when we were going in to see this, I was like, oh, there's a poster for, I think it was the 50th or 60th anniversary of the Italian Job. I was like, I've never seen that in the cinema, that would be really good to go and see. But then I noticed there was, like, as I say, there was like a list of Star Wars, and there was a list of something else, and I was like, God, is there any? You know, I think there are a lot of cinemas that are banking on. So you've got Wicked Part 1 coming out in November. And I think you've got Nosferatu comes out on Christmas Day here. I think a lot of cinemas are actually really, really hoping that the last 2 months of the year are going to save them. Wicked in particular, I think, is going to be a big thing, which is weird because I've seen Wicked several times on stage, and this film does absolutely nothing for me, I have to say, what I've seen of it so far. And this is part 1 of 2, obviously. So this is the first half of the play, but it's actually longer than the entire play itself. So it's like well over 2.5 hours or something like that. So I don't really know what they're doing with it, quite honestly. But even that, I'm just like, there's nothing that's really, as I say, apart from these 2 remakes, there's nothing really that's like catching my interest and making me go, I really want to go and see that, which is such a sad state of affairs.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there is a distinct lack of things really, since there's been just the odd ones during the summer as well. Obviously, we've had a couple of real big ones, Inside Out 2 and Deadpool Wolverine, but some of them have it's been really, really disappointing. Lots of things have failed, and we're just not particularly enticing things. So like, people are not going to go and see that. And then, like I say, if they're sitting in a screening of a film and you're getting people basically acting out in the cinema at the same time, you're thinking, it's not a fun experience, and I've spent a whole shitload of money on it. So no, I will learn from this and not come back.
Yeah.
You know, if you go into screenings and you know what they're about, if they are children's films, then yes, there's going to be a certain amount of disruption and noise. Or if it's, you know, advertised as a sort of mother and baby screening, that kind of idea, then you know exactly what it is. But general screenings, no, they're not. They don't police these screenings at all. They come in, the staff come in, and to be fair, there are very few staff as well. There's not enough staff in these places, but they come in to make sure that the film is running and it's in focus.
Nobody's recording.
Yeah, and then they go away. But they've got cameras everywhere that they can look at these things in case anybody does pull out a recorder. Mind you wouldn't do that halfway through a film anyway. You would do that from the start, I suppose. But yeah, they don't check again for any sort of rowdy behaviour. And even when some people go and complain about the way people are behaving, then they don't react to it, because they're on minimum wage, if not slightly above that. It's not their responsibility to get in arguments and get in fights with people, you know. So, aye. But yes,
and I also think as well, like, if you're, so for example, it's like Joker. So that was quite, I would say, anticipated by a lot of people. You know, a lot of people have a lot of strong feelings about the first one. But if you start within, say, 24 hours of a film coming out, and if you look on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, and all of a sudden that was shit, or this is terrible, there's a lot of people who can be put off by that very easily, and therefore films that were expected to do a significant amount of money, all of a sudden are in the doldrums because word of mouth is that it's just not good, and therefore not your time, money, effort, and all the rest of it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There are some films that are critic proof, but there's not very many of them. Some films,
Yeah.
they do well no matter what the critics say, and they're always held up as being, look, it doesn't matter what you actually read. People are going to go and see them anyway because they make up of their own minds. But a lot of the time, no, they don't. They may be a wee bit unsure about going to see something. I don't know enough about it, so they'll read a review of it, and if the review's shit, then they'll just say, well, I might catch it when it comes on the telly. Yeah, and that's it's a real shame, because when it's good, the cinema experience is really, really enjoyable, but it doesn't take much to sort of put people off because of all the factors we've talked about as well, and well, I really can't be bored doing that if it's going to be rubbish or I'm not going to enjoy it. So yes, yeah, and that's why you get a lot of these sleeper hits, things like A Second Life on home streaming and things like that. But you don't really know the numbers for those because the streaming companies don't.
Oh, it's all wrapped up in...
Yeah, they don't advertise their streaming numbers a lot of the time, except if they've got massive.
Yeah, unless it's like 1 billion people worldwide have watched Chris Hemsworth Extraction or whatever it is, it's... Which I think that did hit 1 billion, didn't it?
Apparently so, yeah. That's why the second one came out, but they were a wee bit quieter about the second one.
Yeah, funny that. I was going to say, we didn't hear any numbers for the follow-up. Wonder why.
Yeah, most people can stand one Extraction, but when it comes to the second one,